Hello everyone and welcome back to another Strategoi video. Ryan here, but I am not alone and this is for the first time in 5 months I think. Today I'm joined by my co-host and starter of the channel, Jonas. How's it going, buddy? It's good to have you
I'm
back.
alive.
You're alive. Yes, we did it. I'm so glad to have you back. Even though today is not exactly a day for your armies, this is going to be focused on Khorne today. We can kind of get you caught back up, get you back in the swing of things, and let our lovely community hear your ASMR voice, your
Sure.
smooth Flemish Belgian the accent and everything. We all love
Yeah,
it.
I hope I still got it.
You still have it, yes. And how's your voice been going, by the way? If people that have been following for a long time know that your voice was kind of something that was giving you some trouble. Is it back to normal?
Yeah, I'm only working like part-time now, to just so I have a little bit more time to do a different job that requires less talking. That's why I'm always a little bit busy as well, because the hours are really tough to prepare for, so to speak. So yeah, my voice better, but that's only because I just talk less. I fully expect it to become a problem once again, if I go back to full-time teaching. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
For
but
now, it's comfortable.
yeah, okay. I mean, that's a bummer to hear it wasn't permanently solved, but at least you're feeling better. So
Yeah,
that's what we can ask for now. Okay, so as you know, we're in the middle of a series. We've already done about
yeah.
a week's worth of updates. How much do you know about these updates? I mean, you first off, let's set some expectations here. You haven't been playing a whole lot in the past, however long, and fourth edition
Yeah,
probably in general.
I think in the past couple of months, like in the past 5 months, I've played 5 games,
Okay.
all in all, if it's that many. So yeah, it's been tough for me personally to get back into it. But you updated me on the Scourge of Ghyran, so I understand that armies get new war scrolls. Well, not new war scrolls, I suppose. The war scrolls are new, but the units are not. Let's put it that way. And we sometimes get a sneak peek for the new GHB as well, which I do try to keep up with a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. So sometimes in the article they'll hide one of those at the bottom. That's not every time, but it's enough to be interesting and keep you looking, even if
Yeah.
it's not an army that you're interested in. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, the rules expansions. I guess the idea is we're leading into the new GHB, right? And they're going to change all the points when that comes out, probably, in the normal way that they do with the battle scroll. Obviously, we lose all of the honor guard rules and any other
Yeah.
missions and battle tactics that are associated with this season. Also, we've had an article that told us about progressive battle tactics, where you're picking two different battle tactics cards
Yeah.
with three different things on them, and you have to do them in a specific order, but you could do, I guess, one from each card on the same turn. So you could be getting two battle tactics in a turn, from what I understand.
Yeah. Cool.
I think a lot of things are getting shifted up, and obviously GW has been aware that the community at large, generally feels that the edition has been a little bit stale, because especially coming off the new indexes, which were fresh and new and exciting back when we first started a year ago. The books that have been coming out thereafter haven't really changed the formula very much, and it's left us a little
Hmm.
bit stale. But now we're getting these updates that often have two new battle formations. We've seen two new war scrolls, or one, I think, in the case of Stormcast, and these are war scrolls that can only be used one or the other. You can kind of choose to use the temporary Scourge of Ghyran version, or you can use the regular version if you want, but not mix and match. And they have their own points value, so they can balance them a little better. And then we're also seeing sometimes new heroic traits. Some monstrous traits got added in. Some armies, I think we've got two armies already that got spell lores. That's OBR and Gits, if I'm not mistaken. And spoiler alert, but we're getting a doubling of a type of lore today. We've also seen yeah, I think that's actually the big stuff. All the different monstrous traits, all that stuff, plus the formations. Obviously, your big armies are coming up soon. You've got Lumineth, Seraphon, Soulblight, and Sylvaneth. I guess we'd call your big four.
Yeah.
Are you? I mean, we haven't seen any of those yet. Are you pretty excited about what could be coming out?
I am actually. Since we last talked about this, I think a week or so ago, I've been trying to catch up on what's been going on, and now I'm, really curious to see what there's gonna come out for my armies. I've been actually painting and playing mostly Seraphon, but later today I'm actually playing a Lumineth game once again. So I'm
Nice.
excited for it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into Khorne and just see what you think. And I don't know how many of these articles you've looked at in depth, but obviously we're doing that together today. So if you've got any questions
Yeah.
about how this works, feel free to pause, or if you just want to jump in and
Yeah,
share
let's
your opinion.
roll.
Okay, so every
Yeah.
one of these articles starts with a lore video. I'll be honest, I haven't watched a single one of them yet, but I hope they're cool. Obviously, it has something to do with why these new army changes are happening, in lore. And then we get a link to the downloads page, and then we'll see these separately printed battle profiles here. I'll talk about those in a
Hmm.
sec. But let's talk about the new General's Handbook fact to start off today. I'm just going to read this out loud and then we can talk about it. So, thanks to low hanging bows, vines, creepers, and all manner of interfering flora, units are now much harder to target if every model in the unit is within 1 inch of obscuring terrain. This may seem like a massive boon for shooting units, which can hide among the trees, but all those dangly plants can really foul up a ranged attack. Okay, so let's stop there. This isn't exactly rules text, so we're going to have to interpolate a bit what's actually meant here. But it sounds like if every model in the unit is just within, not wholly within, of a piece of terrain that's defined as obscuring, which is not all of them, but I think a good chunk of them, then they're going to be much harder to target. What do you think that's going to mean?
It could be something like a little bit more obscuring terrain where you can't shoot through it either way, and that's as they say here, it can be it can really foul up a range attack. So it'll probably just mean that like most terrain is like forest rules, I suppose.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I guess the cool thing is you don't have to stand behind it or wholly on it to get some kind of buff. It could just be
Yeah.
-1 to hit. Who knows? I have no idea what this is going to be. But people who are against shooting units obviously are going to like this one. If you're more of a playing it honest and get in the fracas, fighting with melee stuff. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll have to see. It's a little vague. And then places of power have metamorphosed into something more Ghyraonic with new effects that range from healing or sometimes deadly pollen to magical boons and rapidly growing vegetation. So, for those that don't know, with 9 out of the 12 battle plans, we've had at least, well, we've a small place of power, if not a big place of power on the map. 3 of them don't have any places of power, and those have had the same rules, which is basically a wizard can take a risk to get +1 to cast, including for a magical intervention,
Yeah.
or a non-wizard can get the chance to unbind. So. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's been. It sounds like maybe they'll either do that in addition to what they're gaining, or there'll be specific types of places of power, and then not all of them will be good for magical stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I expect them to give different advantages depending on what your role is.
Oh, okay. What would an example be?
Well, for right now, I think do you roll D3 or D6? I don't know anymore. But if you roll a 1, you take D3 mortal damage, right? And in all the other occasions, you get +1 to cast.
Yeah, on a 2 plus on a d6. Yeah, and then
Yeah, that's the one.
yeah.
So it could be like if you roll a 6 and a 5, you heal. If you roll a 4 and a 3, you get +1 to your save or whatever it is that they mention here. Magical boons. So +1 to cast maybe still, and then rapidly growing vegetation might actually just slow you down like half your movement or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be all kinds of things, and it might be different per mission, kind of like we've seen with the twists and
Yeah, that'd be
underdog
cool.
mechanics. So who
Yeah.
knows? And then finally here, it looks like we're going to be talking about KO because it says tomorrow's Scourge of Ghyran content will
Yeah.
be far more down to earth, or will it? That sounds like they're flying to me, but could even be Ideneth. Who knows? Anyway, anything else you want to say about that before we move on to the units?
No, it's very vague, more vague than the last couple of things, right?
I would agree. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all speculation at this point.
Hmm.
But I mapped out when these articles should end, seeing as they're doing them on the weekends as well, and it sounds like we will have the GHB in our hands by the beginning of June, as in like June
Yeah.
1st or whatever, that first Saturday. So
Okay.
we shouldn't have to wait too long, but we'll see. Okay, so like I said, pretty much every time we're getting 1 or 2 new battle profiles. Again, you choose this or the standard version. When I talk about the old version, I mean the one we got first, but it doesn't go away if I say old. And they have a new name. So I made a quick list of the things that changed here. So the Mighty Lord of Khorne, the only thing that changed is he went up 50 points in terms of what we see here. And then
Yeah.
the Scourge of Ghyran Mighty Bloodcrushers is interesting because they added the word mighty here, but then if we look at their war scroll in a second, mighty didn't get printed, so I don't know what that's all about. But they have had some typos in these already.
It might just be a copy paste from the left's
Could be.
battle profile.
Yeah, we've seen a number of typos, so it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't surprise me. But the only thing that changed, at least on this part, is that they went up by 20 points for a unit of 3. And then this note down here, it basically is telling you it won't be legal until the General's Handbook comes out. So even though you could start using them now, it's not going to make sense until they balance out all the points.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at those war scrolls. Jonas, how familiar are you with Khorne? Are you a regular opponent of Khorne, or have you?
Not regularly, but I do understand the army a little bit. I've been fascinated by Khorne for a very long time now. I do understand. From what I understand, is that the Mighty Lord of Khorne sees no play at all.
Sure. That's kind of the point of these updates, right? Is to make.
Yeah, I mean, I have the model from the first Age of Sigmar, starter kit, I suppose it is, and I've been trying to sell it for a million years.
Well, maybe it's the time. Maybe it's time. We'll have to determine.
I hope it's good.
Yeah. Well, here we go. So. I've already actually looked at the wheel and the keywords and everything, so let's talk about what changed. The wheel stayed the same, the keywords stayed the same, so nothing special there. As far as his attacks are concerned, the Axe of Khorne lost an attack but gained a damage. So if you think about that, he was at 5 attacks with 2 damage, so he was doing max 10 damage with the same internal profile, and as in 3 plus to hit, 3 plus to wound, minus 2 Ren. And now he's down to 4 attacks with 3, so it goes to max 12. So I would say it's a swingier move because now he's got less attacks to make sure they go through, but he does more damage when they do. So I think it's still an upgrade because the total amount is still higher. And then for the second profile, it lost an attack and also lost anti-wizard +1 rend. But to be honest, I don't know how much of the work was really being done by this profile anyway. So. But what really changed is the ability. So let me tell you what he used to have on the war scroll, on the regular war scroll. So there was an ability for giving strike first on 1 Gore Chosen unit. That went off automatically, but you had to be within range. And what's a Gore Chosen unit? Now, you might think that's Bloodbound, because that's what the keyword for the mortals, but it's actually not what it is. The Gore Chosen were basically all of the non-unique foot heroes. There were 7 of them, and they were the mortals, not the demon version. So non-unique foot hero that's a mortal, and basically he could give one of them strike first, which doesn't really sound all that impressive because the game's just not built around foot heroes going around smacking things. Although that would be cool. He couldn't even give it to himself because he didn't have the right keyword for that. So he had to be basically goading on another hero for some hero hammering, I guess. And then the other ability he used to have was giving +1 to charge for all bloodbound infantry wholly within 12, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that was for 1. I'm going to double check that real quick. But anyway, bloodbound are your mortal dudes. So let's double check. Yeah, that was just a passive ability for all bloodbound infantry units wholly within 12, so that would impact himself. Okay, so those 2 abilities are fine, but remember he's a foot hero, and foot heroes eat up usually one of your spots as a regiment. And so you were having to raise your drops to take him, and did it really make sense? Probably not. He could only take, let's see, do I have this right? Let's see, Mighty Lord of Khorne. Let's go back and look at those keywords because I might be wrong about that. Oh, any bloodbound warmonger. So that was a hero, I guess. So he could take any amount of those guys. So maybe that was the idea, is that you would take a bunch of warmongers in his regiment and go hero hammering or whatever. But I don't know if that's all that great. So Jonas, let's take a look at his new abilities. So he's got a once per battle, any combat command ability that's a move and charge, but it's in the combat phase, which is interesting. So if this unit is in combat, so he's got to go get stuck in, but he's pretty durable. Pick a visible, friendly, bloodbound unit that is wholly within 12 of this unit and not in combat to be the target. Make a charge roll of 2d6. The target can move a distance up to the value of the charge roll, and basically it has to land in combat and counts as having charged. So remember, because this is a combat phase ability, this is happening before combat starts. So it's basically a counter charge once per battle that costs a CP and is for a specific type of unit in a specific situation that's cheaper and is happening off phase. So it's not happening in the charge phase. How strong do you think that is?
If you want him on the front lines and if he's useful besides his ability, then I can see it being useful. I do wonder though, with the keywords there on the bottom, move and charge, does that mean that it can, as you said, it can only be used as almost only be used as a reaction, as in he can't have charged in the phase before that, right?
Well, this ability is getting used by those guys. I'm pretty sure. But even if it was getting used by him, let's see if this you pick a visible to be the target. Yeah, it's a good question. Is who's using the keywords? Is it the guy?
Exactly.
But in any case, move in the core move ability only restricts you from doing it multiple times in the same phase. So he could have charged himself and then trigger this. So I think it's okay. But
because if he can charge himself, right, it's a little bit more useful, because that would also grant a unit you really want in combat a reroll, so to speak, for a command point. Because if they failed their charge earlier in the charge phase, he could actually force them to reroll or retry that charge again.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me a little bit of River Blades for some reason, but
I was thinking like a little bit of that as well. Yeah, I think it's, especially as a Khorne player, it's more interesting as a active ability than a reactive ability. So I think the situation where you want to pull in a specific unit that you really wanted to get in combat is probably more enticing than using it as a reply to a charge. But it's interesting. I just don't think that the rest of the profile is good enough to want to bring him besides this ability.
Right. Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. There's a part of me that's thinking and questioning whether they can do this despite having run. So the reasoning being that I can't remember if it's in the run rule or the charge rule that says if you that stops the other one from happening. So I'm gonna go try to look that up real quick. Would you care to read the next ability for us, the end of any turn?
Yeah, so the next one is the same as it was before, right? It's once per turn for the entire army, the end of any turn, and it can still be used if this unit has been slain or has been destroyed at least. Pick an enemy unit that was allocated any damage points by this unit's Axe of Khorne this turn to be the target. So if this unit caused any damage, and even if he died, you could still use his ability at the end of the turn. You roll a dice, and on a 5+, the target is automatically destroyed and cannot be replaced for the rest of the battle. That always looks good, right? It's always exciting when you see like an auto kill ability. It's the same for Nagash's Hand of Dust, where it's a 50-50 chance that you get to auto destroy something. And this actually goes one step further and says it cannot be replaced either. But from experience, I know the 50-50 almost never goes your way. So here it's only on one third of the times that you'll get to use this ability as you want it to be used. That being said, it is on a much cheaper model, so it's scary. I know some opponents, especially inexperienced opponents, that would be scared of possibly running their big model into your tiny guy. You just gotta make sure that you strike first, because if he dies before he can strike, then it's kind of useless still in the end.
Right, sure. Yeah, he had to have gotten to fight. But like you said, if he dies, he gets to still try to do it. But it also says this turn, so it has to be the turn that he did that.
Yeah, and he has to have dealt damage as well.
Yeah, it's an okay ability. When you said something about this being the same as it was, what did you mean by that?
Didn't he have that ability before?
No. The two rules that I read out were his two abilities. It could be there's another dude that has that rule.
Maybe he had that. Khorne players, let me know in the comments whether I'm hallucinating here. Maybe he had that ability in the much earlier days. I really specifically remember this ability, even the same name.
Okay, yeah, certainly could be. I'll take a double check on this, but the no, he's just the two abilities I mentioned. So the +1 charge for bloodbound infantry, and then the strike first on a
Huh.
gore chosen, were his index rules. But yeah, so maybe he got it back.
Okay. Yeah.
So I checked it. I checked it out, and so could you run and have charged with this ability? Yes, because the thing that stops you from running and then using the charge ability is the actual ability that's called charge, which also has the charge keyword, but it's
Hmm.
not the charge keyword that creates that stipulation. It's the actual wording of the declare step
Yeah.
of
Okay.
the charge. So you could have run and then get a charge in the combat phase.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is you're holding this carrot over your opponent's head, they never know when you're going to pull the trigger on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you could bring in a giant unit of dudes that's going to wipe out whoever they came into with this dude. So as soon as this dude
Yeah.
gets stuck
It's
in combat, there's always this threat lingering.
yeah. It's very in theme with how Khorne plays
Yeah.
with the movement shenanigans. You can never. You're never completely sure where their units are going to end up.
Yeah. I do think this guy got a little bit of a buff,
Hmm.
but I don't know if it's 50 points worth, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So, corn players out there, let us know how much you think this one ability really changes moves the needle for you guys or not. But maybe let's go ahead and get on to Blood Crushers if you're okay with
Yeah.
that. Okay, so Blood Crushers, again, not mighty Blood Crushers. They went up 20 points, like I said. They actually got +2 inch move from 8 to 10, so that's something notable. That does make me wonder if the other juggernauts are going to get an extra boost of movement, but I assume not because this is just a temporary war scroll.
Hmm.
The first melee profile swapped anti-infantry +1 rend for charge +1 damage, which, to be fair, I think is way better because
Yeah.
especially coupled with crit mortals, now they're doing crit mortals on 2 damage instead of one.
Yeah. For sure.
So you really want to be charging with these guys. And then the second profile, the companion weapon, gained anti-cav +1 rend, which helps push them a little bit over the edge, I suppose, if you're going into cav. So they used to be an anti-infantry thing, and now they're kind of swinging more towards charging and being anti-cav. So they're like
Hmm.
counter cav, I guess. Now, the one War Scroll ability they used to have was an any charge phase impact hits. So that meant if you had multiple copies of these guys, they could all be doing impact hits, just rolling 1d3 and doing that much mortal damage. Kind of boring. And now it's been swapped to the once per turn army any charge phase ability. So still any charge phase, but you can't stack it because it's once per turn army. If it charged this turn, pick an enemy unit in combat with it, so 3 inches. Roll a dice on a 3 up. This unit can move 2d6 inches and can pass through models in the target unit and must end that move in combat. So it could be, theoretically, if you rolled high enough, in combat with a different unit and could even fly through that unit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like these changes are enough of a change to make you want to take them?
The thing is, River Blades do this without a dice roll,
Sure.
and it's really good on them. But the what are it called? The Blood Knights also do something a little bit similar, I suppose, with a dice roll. Though their movement is just fixed at a 10, and with how many units are reinforced these days, it's just not as easy to move through a unit completely, or at least not enough to be it for it to be useful. And here it's only 2d6, so statistically you're moving 7 inches.
Yeah.
Um, it's good, don't get me wrong, but it might not be good enough.
Yeah, fair enough. I am curious also if these could be taken in the Legion of the First Prince. I think they're one of the units that could have been taken, but now that they're not updating the Legion of First Prince version of it because it has its own war scrolls. I'm assuming not.
Yeah.
So that could be kind of interesting there, maybe. But yeah, I feel like this is okay. Corn players, let us know if this moves the needle for you guys. I kind of have the feeling that it doesn't. But anyway, all right. So you want to get on to some formations?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Scrolling up. All right. So we've got two new formations. We've got Tournament of Skulls, and that's going to be a once per turn army, your hero phase. Pick a friendly non-hero Bloodbound, so that's the Mortals unit, and a friendly non-hero Blades of Khorne demon unit to be the targets. Interesting that they threw Blades of Khorne demon on that. I wonder how many options you have for bringing non-Blades of Khorne demons, maybe in Regiments of Renown. But anyway,
Non-hero Blades of Khorne.
yeah. That's what I'm sorry, but the emphasis here on Blades of Khorne. They
Oh,
didn't.
yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't put
okay.
that
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Until the start of your next turn, while the targets are wholly within 12 inches of each other, add 1 to wound rolls for both targets' combat attacks. So this reminds me
Okay.
a little of Celeste, maybe, that you kind of
Mm,
want to have two different units, the mortal side and the demon side fighting together, and it's even bloody competitors kind of in the name here. Um,
yeah.
it obviously depends on what kind of wound stats you guys have in Khorne. If you're on, I don't know, fours, fives, whatever, this obviously makes a bigger difference than if you're going from threes to twos. Although of course it makes it more consistent. In any case, it's not bad. Certainly, the question is how many builds want to be running a whole lot of the Bloodbound mortal dudes and the demon units, and again the non-heroes. At Worlds, we saw a whole lot of Bloodbound units, but not a whole lot of demon stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
you've already
curious.
got a battle formation that entices you to play mortals and demons together, and I think there you have a double activation ability, a little bit like Lumineth, where you can fight with after you follow with a demon unit. I think you can fight with a mortals unit within range.
Yeah, so it's a demon. It looks like it's a Khorne demon. Exactly. The demon unit has to have fought first, and then you get to activate with the other one. Yes.
Yeah, not actually sure that this one is better than that. It really depends on what units you're using, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because I mean, getting two units to fight is so strong, and it's the same range. It's whole. No, the other one was just within 12, and this is wholly
Ah,
within 12, so it's even more restricted here.
yeah, it
And
just
the
seems a little bit weird.
yeah, and the other one doesn't restrict you to non-heroes. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, okay. Now,
Maybe if it wasn't once per turn army, it could be interesting because then you're running power pairs and that would be really cool, but probably also too strong. But yeah, that would be interesting.
yeah, I think you've got a point that the other one's just explicitly better. But someone out there who's a big fan of both types of units, let us know if you think this has any juice.
Yeah,
Um,
wasn't there a rule, Ryan, where you could choose two battle formations or something, or is that fake news?
I haven't heard anything about that, but if
Okay,
someone's heard
okay.
about that, let me know. Okay, so the Gore Tide. This is a once per turn army, your movement phase, so not your opponent's. Pick a friendly Bloodbound hero and up to two other friendly Bloodbound units, that could be other heroes, that are wholly within 12 inches of the hero to be the targets. Add 2 inches to the move characteristic for the rest of the turn. So it's basically like Field Sergeant. Remember, Field Sergeant is probably
Yeah.
falling away with the
Hmm.
new GHB. So, I mean, is this good? It's not bad, certainly.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, and then keep in mind the plus 2 inch movement is helping you get that murder lust off a little bit more likely
Yeah.
to put someone in combat. There's some tech maybe there, but it's kind of a boring rule. Like it doesn't do a whole lot. It just gives you a more further up the field, and then obviously once you've kind of gotten locked in with the opponent, it's not doing a whole lot. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, if I look at some of the other battle formations, is the one you mentioned for the chain fighting, and then you've got one for +1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by bloodbound units. The target enemy unit contesting an objective you do not control, obviously situational. You've got another one that gives Blades of Khorne cavalry strike first on an 8+. Obviously, if you're building that build, I don't know why you'd use any of these other ones. And then the last one was if a friendly non-monster Blades of Khorne demon unit uses a fight ability as a 5+ ward instead of a 6+ for the rest of the turn, which also seems really strong. So I mean, out of these two, I think I like the movement one better, but I don't. Obviously, it's leaning into a bloodbound build, and it's kind of got that field sergeant slash cities of Sigmar vibe where you're giving it out to two different units to get some extra move. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really strong in that context, but corn players need to let us know what you think. Is that strong enough to avoid taking one of the other ones? So
Plus two is scary though, Ryan. If you look at Seraphon, for example, I think a lot of Seraphon players would pick the +2 asterism for their entire army, though I suppose. But that's scary if you have +2 and then the bloodlust ability and all those other shenanigans that you've got. That could be interesting.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just don't know if it's as flashy as what corn players like. But again, these formations
Yeah,
in general in fourth edition are so bare bones that maybe you just
yeah.
want something that's guaranteeing you get in on that turn one or
Hmm.
turn two.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so Jonas, let's go on to the prayer lore. What I've been doing in all these videos is talking about which like things you'd be giving up if you were to take this, because you can only choose one or the other. And as I hinted at, we started with only two factions that have double like prayer or spell lores. Those were, of course, Zinch and Seraphon, to your chagrin as a
Yeah.
Lumineth player. Um,
Hmm.
And then we just recently got Gitz got another one and OBR got another one, at least for this next year. And now we're seeing Khorne's getting his second Prayer Lord, making them the first double Prayer Lord faction, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. So let's talk about what they currently have access to, and then we'll see if these seem to be better. What they currently have access to is an unlimited prayer that goes off on a 5 or like does the special version on a 10. This is Unholy Flames. You pick a friendly Blades of Khorne priest and then a visible Blades of Khorne unit holier than 12. Add 1 to the rank characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. In addition, on a 10 plus, add 1 to wound roll. So this is the unlimited prayer. They do have a decent number of priests, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it's not bad to take multiples. And I think there might even be an artifact or heroic trait to make one unit a priest in addition. So then you're getting those points racked up maybe to give them +1 Ren and +1 wound, but it's only for the rest of the turn, which, considering how hard it is to rack up that many points, doesn't seem like it's going to be lasting for very long. That's the unlimited one. Let's take a look at the unlimited prayer here just to directly compare them. So this goes off on a 3 and crits on an 8+, if you want to call it that. Gore Flesh. Pick a friendly Blades of Khorne priest and a Khorne unit holier than 12 until the start of your next turn, so it already is lasting longer. Ignore the first point of damage allocated to the target in each phase. If the chaining roll was 8+, you can pick another eligible unit to be a second target. Now, it's interesting because OBR had this also as a
I was just going to say that, yeah.
unlimited prayer, but it didn't allow you to pick a second target, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and take a look at it.
No, it did not, but it's also an unlimited spell, right?
Yeah, both of them are. Yeah. So a lot of people I don't think are too psyched about what they had to give up for in OBR to get that. Ignoring 1 point of damage each phase, like I said yesterday, is great if your opponent is playing in multiple phases, but not all that impressive if they're playing mainly in one phase. How do you see that direct trade from the unlimited spell that goes off on a 5 or a 10? Now this is a 3 or an 8. To get +1 rend and possibly +1 to wound, but only until the rest of the turn. This ability here, the new one, is until you're following the start of your next turn, so it could last for quite a while.
It makes you more defensive, and I'm just not sure that's something that Khorne's looking for. You want things to die, right? Even if it's your own stuff.
Yeah. I think I'd rather have the rend personally. But
the only good thing about the 3+ is that you can usually get it off from the first go. Well, not usually, but the chance is much bigger that you get to use it on your first turn rather than waiting a couple of turns for it to be useful.
Fair enough. And I don't know how often you're getting that 10 up off on the Unholy Flames, the old unlimited spell. Whereas an 8+ is a little easier to guarantee, especially if you have the time to let it build up since it lasts until your next hero phase.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at their old non-unlimited spells, so their regular prayers, I should say. We had Blood Boil. This was a visible enemy unit with an 18. Roll number of dice equal to number of models. Each 5+ does mortal. And then if it was on an 8+, subtract 1 from wound rolls for the target until the start of your next turn. I mean, anti-horde spell is always nice to have in your back pocket, though sometimes it's not really something you're going to see every single game. And the fact that you have to give up a whole prayer to make sure you have one in your back pocket might be a problem. But subtracting 1 from wound rolls is good regardless of whether it's a horde unit. So that could have a big impact, but you have to save up for the 8+ to make that happen. And then let's look at the other one that was on the index version of their spell lore or prayer lore. This was Witchbane Curse, goes off on a 4. It has the big ability on an 8. You pick a visible enemy wizard within 18. It's subtract 1 from the target's power level to a minimum of 0 until the end of your next turn. In addition, if the chanting roll was 8+, inflict 3 mortal damage. So it's best on probably small wizards. Multicasters probably aren't sweating it too much. I don't know if I think those are all that strong. They're fine. Let's look at what the new ones are. So we've got Runes of Loathing for 3 and goes off big on an 8. Pick a friendly Blades of Khorne priest and a Blades of Khorne unit holier than 12. Until the start of your next turn, the target has a 3+ ward against damage inflicted by spell abilities, prayer abilities, and abilities used by manifestations, including fight abilities. If the chaining roll is an 8, you pick another eligible unit. Ooh. What do you think of that one?
It's juicy. It's juicy. I think in a Khorne army, though, I'm not actually sure you want this because you already have so much magic hate in your army.
Yeah, they definitely did used to have it. How much magic hate is still going on right now? Is it still the same?
I remember they have their with their points, right? They can buy some magic hate, so to speak.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
blood with
They
their blood tithe.
for two blood tithe you could unbind a spell for free. I'm not sure that they have the same kind of magic hate that they used to, where there was like a spell
Hmm.
ignore. I think
Okay.
that might have fallen off. Corn players, let us know. I'm not going to go through all the battle traits just right now, but in any case, I get what you're saying, and obviously this is very specific. And
It is cool though.
it's only a ward. It's not a spell ignore, which I think personally I'd rather it be a spell ignore. But a 3+ ward is one of the best wards we have in the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
something there. And then putting on 2 units is obviously pretty nice. Um, and I guess to your point, there's not a whole lot of direct damage coming from spells these days, with the exception of like Seraphon, Zinch, but it's less than it used to be, and maybe Lumineth. But
Hmm.
okay, and then the last one is on a gift of apoplexy. I don't know. Someone let me know how you're supposed to say that. On a 3, and then on a crits on an 8, if you will. Pick a friendly Blades of Khorne priest, and then a visible enemy unit with an 18 until the start of your next turn. Each time the target uses an ability that is not a move, a charge, or fight ability. After that ability is resolved, inflict D3 damage. If the chaining roll is an 8+, inflict 3. That could actually be pretty strong, especially if it's
Yeah.
a shooting unit, or a unit that has a bunch of war scroll abilities that it needs to use. Um, I don't know. That could be strong. Is that enough to take this prayer lore? I guess that's the bottom line here. Do you think these 3 prayers are better than the 3 we went over?
I really like the last one, as you mentioned. I mean, everyone will probably think that. It's you know what would be cool, Ryan, if they give us the option to choose a prayer lore in the deployment phase, like with
Oh
the
yeah.
bodyguard rule.
Yes, I think that would be an amazing change. Yeah,
Yeah,
because then you could custom make it based off of what you need.
exactly. It would be clean, and then you would also have a reason to pick this lore because this is the lore that you pick against small caster armies that have damage spells, for example. If you come up against the Teclis, you throw out the 3+ wards and the gift of apoplexy. It's much more interesting in that way. But I feel like all of them are kind of geared towards reducing like magical effects or extra abilities, and not so much interacting with what Khorne wants to do.
Yeah.
It sort of bolsters your army more than it enhances it to be more more aggressive or something like that. So it's a little bit different from what Khorne players are used to, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, if thinking about like the anti-wizard prayer they already had for to subtract 1 from the power level and maybe do some mortal damage, I think I'd prefer the ward, depending on what type of spell they're doing. If they're
Yeah.
doing damage, then obviously the ward's better. If they need to get buffs off, then that could be a big deal. And especially if they're an army that only has one caster that's a level 1 caster, then you just
Hmm.
turn off their magic the whole game. But I mean, to me, that's like you said, situational thing. It depends on what you need. Um, I God, the unlimited spell for +1 Ren just seems a lot better to me. And
Yeah.
then having the anti horde spell in your back pocket is nice, especially with subtract 1 from wound rolls if you proc it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Corn players, let us know. Do you think that this is an upgrade at all? To me, it seems like a slight downgrade, but maybe I'm being a little too harsh on it. And
It
then
feels like they stole a page from a dwarven rune book or something.
that I get what you mean there. Yeah, it does feel a little bit dwarf.
Magic hate, defense, slowing people down. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see what comes for the Fire Slayers when that comes out. These
Yeah.
two, I think the movement's decent, but I'm not sure about this one, especially after your point about what they already have for
Hmm.
demons and mortals working together. And then the 2 War Scrolls, if I slide back down to those, um, yeah, I don't know if this is doing anything for me personally. I think this ability could be really strong, but I don't know if that's enough to justify taking this dude who's not a priest, who doesn't really seem to have a whole lot of other synergy with the army. But maybe
The
I'm
thing
wrong.
is, if they change up or overhaul even the list building aspect of the game, which they could do, because it's a module as well, if I'm not mistaken, then this guy could come in handy in a lot of scenarios. But if it's just this one as one of your 2 hero slots, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So maybe I'm biased, but I kind of think this might be one of the weaker updates we've seen thus far.
Yeah.
Corn players, let us know though. I still think Skaven got the best upgrade out of relative to what it had. It got a whole lot of cool tricks that it needed, I think, to make a wider variety of lists. I don't know if that's been consistent across all the armies, but Jonas, I was thinking about doing a tier list at the end of all this. I don't know if that's something you'll have enough familiarity with all the different changes to be able to do, but I thought about doing that just as a summary of all the changes we got. So
yeah, I mean, if I can do my homework, then sure.
All right, guys. Well, maybe KO tomorrow. Jonas, maybe you'll be joining us, maybe not. But in any case, it was a pleasure having you on again, and I'm looking forward to doing a GHB review with you when that comes out. And then whatever else we end up doing once we get through these Scourge of Ghyran videos. Anything you want to do? Maybe you can send us out today.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll just say our farewells here. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and a comment. I say we, but mostly Ryan is picking up the speed for the channel here. So show him some love. I think if you're a Khorne player, you might be thinking like, guys, please, you need to understand our army better. Please inform us. It's our channel's always been a channel for information sharing. So let us know in the comments what we missed or what you would like to add to the discussion, because that's something that we can really take along when we or take with us when we do the tier video, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. See you in the next one.